Customer service. That's at the key of what we do. You know, your ability to be able to tweet and get back and be able to do that in our industry, whether it's, you know, the hotel industry or airline industry, you know, we get that real-time feedback. We need to get to you right then because the needs that you have are immediate needs. Marketing. You know, you become a better marketer when social listening is a part of your operation. Because you have that additional level of insight that can either support what you're seeing in other means, or give you different insight, not just about what people are saying about your brand, but about what your target audience is talking about generally. One of the great things I like about social is that what social does, you know, and we're all practitioners in here, so this won't sound strange, but a social post that someone posts for us as social marketers is like the beginning doorway into getting a lot more insight because of the platforms that are available. It's all publicly available. Now you can start seeing, okay, in between their transactions. So we have their transaction history. We have a transaction. We know when you buy tickets. We know, because that's, you buy tickets seasonally or your specific buying pattern. But a lot of times we don't know what happens in between. Like we don't know what drives your aspirations. Like a lot of brands, we don't know, like it's a restaurant. We know what you do when you come in. We know that you order a certain thing, we call out your name, we know where you like to sit, but we don't know what other things are going on in your life that make you determine when you're going to come back. But social allows you to do that by layering on social listening with some of the services out there that allow you to take Twitter handles and then create a richer profile of a person to know, okay, publicly, here's who they are on Twitter. They're also on LinkedIn, so we have a little bit more information from LinkedIn. Other platforms, Facebook, we have a better profile. So we know for that restaurant owner, we know, okay, you come in every couple of weeks because you really like it, but you probably come in more through the summer because the months before you've been tweeting about how much you're excited for your kids to come back from college. And that's the place you used to take them. That's all out on social. So it allows you to have kind of a deeper one-to-one marketing relationship as well. And then of course, measurement and monitoring. It plays a big role whether we're doing a sale and we want to know how people are responding or whether it's just day to day. Just knowing, okay, what are people saying about us? What are people saying about other airlines? What are people saying in the industry? What are things, how is that changing week over week? So you can listen from a kind of quantitative perspective. I saw this quote from Jeff Bezos of Amazon, and it made me really think about the importance of social listening. He said, your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. Like, think about that for a second. Like, we put a lot of emphasis on our brands. And you definitely have to put a lot of emphasis because you want people to have the right information. You want it to have a consistent look and feel and all those things. But that other aspect of your brand is what people say when you're not there. What people say when you're not in the room. So, that was lesson number 1. DJ lesson number 2. Have a plan, but be flexible. So this was something I learned because here's the worst thing a DJ can see from a pop icon who's turned DJ, Boy George. Never thought I'd be quoting him in a social media presentation. But hey, seeing bored-looking fans staring at you while you DJ is as horrible as it gets. And that's true. I mean, I spent time, I don't fancy myself to be a great professional, so I've had those moments where it's just like, I'm doing what I do and talking to the crowd is just, all right. That's the worst feeling you can get because you're not getting that energy back, so it's not driving what you do. Now, take that from the DJ booth to our businesses. Imagine, the worst thing you can play to is an audience that's not engaged. And it's worse when you actually have a big audience. When when I used to do this a long time ago, the issue was we would provide all the services. So we would DJ, host, do the whole thing. The way we would get paid would be by what money was made at the bar. So that's how we would get paid for, it reached a certain level. So, because we didn't charge the door or anything like that. So we'd have this packed full of people, but if the crowd wasn't feeling the mix, they just were standing there. So yeah, it was packed, but nobody was happy. The bar owner wasn't happy. We weren't happy because nobody's doing what we need to do at the end of the night, And so everybody's standing around. Because, you gotta have a plan to be flexible. So the DJs that I know, I asked them, I said, how do you avoid that? And they say, well, here's what I do. I go into the set, go into the gig with kind of a playlist of what I think I want to play. And that's based on a lot of things. Now, in our world, it's based on, knowledge of the audience and such. So they'll say, I kind of ask the event host or the club owner or the people having the wedding, kind of tell me about your guests. Tell me what you know about your guests. Tell me who's coming. Tell me what you think they like. Tell me what their preferences are. Those kind of things. So I create this set list and this playlist based on kind of what I think the audience will respond to. So I am prepared. Okay? So, but what I do, I start off in the early part of the evening. And again, that's where the 5 people come in. I start off in the early part of the evening, and I kind of play some things just to observe the audience. They may not be dancing yet, but they're giving me little indications of where we need to go. So they may not be dancing, but they're sitting at the table, they're having appetizers, their heads bobbing a little bit. I notice somebody go to somebody else, that's my song, that's my song. So I start seeing, and once I find that lane, I stay there the rest of the evening. I said, that's interesting. Well, how do we do that? Well, I call it real-time relevance. So I'm missing a couple of pieces there. Okay. Real-time relevance. So we talk a lot about real-time. There we go. Okay, had to get the Kimye up there too. So real-time relevance, aka keeping up with the Kardashians on social media. We all talk about real-time marketing, right? We talk about kind of being able to have that plan. So all of us have some form of content planning. I was in a presentation earlier this morning about content, and she really laid out how they had a good kind of content sharing and platform to share ideas and get the content out in a good plan. So we start off with a good content plan, right? So you're like that DJ in the sense that you kind of know your audience. You also know what you like to play. So from a brand, you know that you have a sale, or you know that you're going to a new destination, or you know you're celebrating a milestone, so that's what you want to play that day. Because you're like, well, this is important to us, so it's got to be important to everybody else, right? So this is what so we sit and we plan, and you get the content together, and you have your content meeting, and then something else happens that drives you another way. Now, what real-time, where a lot of brands make the mistake, is trying to adapt your message to something that's happened in real time where you don't really have a relevant point of view, but you just want to be in the conversation. It's kind of like being at a cocktail party, and you notice the conversation is drifting over into, football. But you're like a basketball fan, but you want to jump in that conversation, so you get the mascot wrong and everything, but you have to be in that conversation because everybody's talking about football. You're a basketball, so you just jump in the conversation. Real-time relevance is saying, what if they're talking about that and the connection to basketball? What if they're talking, then I can kind of slide in the conversation with something that's relevant to what I'm known for, but also real time. So we've had some opportunities to do that. I'll start with the Kanye West, example. So, contrary to popular belief, like social business teams, content teams, and big brands, we don't spend all our days sitting in war rooms waiting to see if somebody's going to talk about and monitoring pop culture all day. Now, what we do pretty well is every day we meet in the morning and we kind of talk about what we plan, kind of what's happening in our world, and then we do bring up, okay, what's trending today, just so we're aware, because sometimes that will impact what you're doing. But every once in a while, some things drop in your lap where you can be real time and relevant. So in this Kenya example, it started with the first child they had. So the folks on social were saying, well, it's the West family, so what if they named their baby Southwest? Well, as you know, they went in a different direction, no pun intended. So they went with Northwest. So we went past that. And so then she announces the second child. So I'm on call, and another colleague of mine are on call, and she had the baby on Saturday. So we're having a conversation and kind of sharing with our teams on Slack and different things and saying, should we get into this mix? Should we? Because people are starting to say, because in true Kardashian fashion, they announced the birth of the baby, and then the suspense was going to be what the name was going to be. So that would, the 48-hour news cycle that they like to do. So in that intermediate time, the Twitter world is starting to buzz and say, well, wouldn't that be cool if it was Southwest? They get free flights, all these kind of things, right? So we go back and forth, and we did 2 tweets actually. The first tweet we did, we said, let's test the waters. So when they didn't have a name. So we tested the waters by saying, just a simple tweet that was like, hey, Kimye, just waiting to hear that name. Thousands of retweets, thousands and thousands of retweets. We're like, oh, this is pretty good. So then they gave the name. So that's when you have the other feeling with real-time relevance. Because sometimes brands deal with this. You'll get it right that one time. You'll get it right, like Arby's with the Pharrell hat. You'll get it right. But then when you extend, it's like, it's a fine line. When there's that moment where everything comes together. So in this case, it started coming, so we're like, the name is out there, people are talking about it. And so I give credit to my colleague, Brooks Thomas. You can tweet him at Brooks E. Thomas and say I said it. He said, remember when Kanye West interrupted Taylor Swift? And I was like, yeah, I do remember that. So we came up with this tweet. Kanye, we're really happy for you, we'll let you finish, but South is one of the best names of all time. So, playing on that riff. And so, that generated a lot of good media, because that's the other thing with real-time relevance. You gotta be real-time relevance, because if you're not, Mashable, BuzzFeed, they'll slam you. You'll be in that other category. They'll be like, the brands that rock the Super Bowl, and the others who try. You don't want to be in that others who try. It's like I always tell people, like, that's the board you don't want to be on. And we also have a Google Trends board in our listening center. I was like, you don't want to be on the Google Trends board either, for the same reason. So we did that, and then the other thing, we launched a campaign around not no bags and fees and other things like that. So we launched this term called transparency, and so we're in the middle of the campaign, and then one of our right around the holidays, it was announced that some of our competitors were going to charge higher surcharges on bags. So it was another chance. We're in the middle of this campaign, so we just put Bach Humbug, insincerely the other guys, and they did pretty well. And then there is Beyonce. Right? Beyonce, she drops a song in the middle of the night that mentions hot sauce in the bag. So we were like, wait a second. One of the biggest things we like to do is educate folks in the space about this idea of what you can carry on and what you can't. And as a side note, if you ever want to look at, know the extreme of what you can't, follow the TSA's Instagram. It is absolutely hilarious. Briefcases of cash, other things, it's just hilarious. But anyway, I digress. So we were like, people always are asking, what can I bring? Can I bring, can I bring water? Can I bring this? Can I bring that? So some other folks on our team who always are listening. Again, it goes back to listening. So we're like, how can we get into those? So we got in there pretty quick and just said, got hot sauce in your bag? If you're checked, swag, which means you can do it, and that was in the song. Carry on. If you check it, you're good. Carry on, you gotta be 3.4 ounces or less, formation, and then we link back to our blog post that talked about it. Now, here's the crazy thing about it. The song mentioned another restaurant brand. So we actually jumped in before that brand, and we were able to be, again, on the good lists on the Mashable Buster, but it was real-time relevance. It wasn't us sitting there saying, okay, Beyonce's trending, how can we be a part of that trend? It was, she's trending with something real time, and there is a real relevance. And so that's been something that we've learned quite a bit.
Southwest, thousands of employees, right? So what types of either encouragement or restrictions do you try and do about, not individual training, personal training, but Southwest or this type of training help building training?
Yeah, and that's actually a work in progress for us. Like that whole kind of, because a big part of employee advocacy is training, and we're actually working on developing some trainings that can have various layers. Have training for everyone can take, just so even how to handle social situations that intersect with your job. Like if something happens where there's an exchange and someone's not happy and they start snapping on, sending on social media, how do you react as an employee? What do you do? So we're trying to train folks on that. The other thing is cultivate those. Like we have some really great employee voices out there, so we try to cultivate those by encouraging them when they see it. They engage on various channels, so we try to watch those channels and elevate where we can. I think the one thing that building a social business, like the investment the organization made in kind of creating a social business team, and we have a listening center and all that, I think it sent a message to the organization that it's okay and here's some good things to do. Like when your CEO joins a social network, it sends a message to two types of people. One that's on the fence about it, like, can I do it? How should I do it? And the other who's like, oh, if I don't get on this, my CEO's on this, I gotta try to, so that's kind of the training to build up those advocates and to put them in a position where they can share stuff, but also put them in a position to understand how they impact the DJ from a standpoint of, we don't train those employees. Like when I got Southwest, like I was trying to find like a secret studio where they train like flight attendants to be like funny. I was like, where's the comedians? Where's the you know? There's like there's none of that. And I was like, but they're funny. But you know, we understand like that moves things. But also if you're not happy that day, there's a person who can tweet about it. So teaching them not only like that you affect social by what you post, but also by what you do. You can impact social as well. Thank you guys so much.